Hi, welcome to Think Human. I'm Chris, and in this video I want to talk about something that I call ignorant pessimism. And this is pessimism about the future humanity, and the things that we will do in the future based on some kind of an emotional response, some kind of a bias or some kind of prejudice, pre-existing notions of what the future might be from unsolid and unscientific material that just comes from gut instinct. So I will in a moment assume the form of an ignorant pessimism. I've written down some things that are examples of what I would call ignorant pessimism, and just to note that some of these things definitely could be argued with, but what I'm talking about are cases when people hold these pessimistic opinions about the future when they have no solid reasoning behind it. Some of these things that I will be talking about, you can make a solid argument that it would be a pessimistic future, but what I'm talking about is when it's kind of a raw idea that hasn't really gone through the process of critical thinking, that people just kind of spit it out as some kind of first response just because they want to be edgy or like, I don't know, whatever reason. So I will assume the persona of an ignorant pessimist, so bear with me. So the first thing would be the Earth is dying. I know this because many people post this on social media, and because I am also mildly familiar with the existential risks to our planet like plastic pollution and CO2 emissions, but I am not familiar enough with any of the programs or methods to minimize these issues in the future, so my knowledge of this issue is incomplete, leading me to an emotional and a negative opinion. Artificial intelligence research will create the Terminator, because scientists researching artificial intelligence want to create artificial intelligence so we could all die. World War III will happen because people are bad and always will be bad, even though the numbers say that the time that we live in right now is the most peaceful time in history, and it makes less and less sense for countries to go to war as the negative consequences ever more outweigh the positives. I also have a delusional picture of the prevalence of violence in the world, because the news shows me only a concentration of bad things instead of the good. I also think that nuclear war is likely to happen. I know this because I am pessimistic about life and humanity, and I also am not familiar with the concept of MAD, or mutually assured destruction, where it is guaranteed that any nation that attacks another with nuclear weapons will be retaliated against so bad that it is just not worth it in any way to start a nuclear war for any nation against any other that also has nuclear weapons. Life is difficult and will only get more difficult. I know this because I've had a difficult life. Technology and automation will lead to a dystopia, where only the very wealthy will live well and the rest of humanity will suffer in poverty. I know this for a fact because I have seen it in movies and on Facebook posts. All rich people are evil psychopaths who want the worst for humanity. Human extinction will happen soon. I know this because I am pessimistic about the future. If humanity ever meets aliens, then it will be a bad outcome for humanity. I know this because I look into human history to see what the motivations of an alien civilization will be. Also, I watch too many bad alien movies, and I cannot tell the difference between what happens in a movie to make it more interesting versus what is reasonable to happen in reality, all things truly considered. The threat from biotechnology is high. I know this because people are bad and we should all die. The government is lying to us about everything. I know this because there have been cases of the government lying to us, and since I am not educated enough, it is too difficult for me to filter and to find out what the government says is true or not, so I just assume that all of what they say is lies. Aliens have actually visited us. I know this because it is exciting for me to believe that. We have lost important knowledge and technology in our past that we will never get back. I know this because humans are stupid and lose things. So these are just some examples of what I would call ignorant pessimism, kind of pessimistic views about the future that are largely born out of ignorance and personal bias, and influenced by people's own emotional moods. And if you know anything about what I'm trying to do with this channel, is the underlying point that we should not draw from our own personal experience or expectations or emotions to talk about the world or what will happen in the future. What we want the world to be and what we want the universe to be has got nothing to do with the actual world or the actual universe. So I think a painful and difficult part of it is that you have to give up what you want the world to be. You have to give up wanting to be right. And instead of that, you want to know what actually is right. So you have to kind of put aside wanting to be correct about the world and what you hope that the world is like, and instead embrace what the actual answers are, even if they are something that you don't like to hear, even if it's uncomfortable to get this new information. It is important that we are brave and open-minded, because otherwise, people are just being self-delusional, and what's the point of having opinions that just make you feel good? They're not true. I don't know why, maybe it's not common in people, but for me it's always been the most important thing is I want to know the truth. No matter how it makes me feel, I want to know what's real, what's really going on in the world, what really is in the kind of clockwork of the universe, what really is going on with the human condition of our lives, why are we never satisfied with what's going on. And these answers quite often, they're not happy answers, they're not, kind of uplifting motivational answers, they're quite serious often. And that drives a lot of people away, and so they prefer these kind of simple comforting opinions to have them. But I would say those are absolutely worthless, meaningless, no matter how good they make you feel. Okay, fine, like stay by yourself in a cabin in the woods somewhere and think your positive happy thoughts about whatever delusional stuff that you want, but then you're not the part of the discussion of what's actually going on in the world and what's the truth and what's the real thing. Now, truth is, of course, such a subjective thing. I don't know if you could ever get to the bottom of reality. I've had discussions with some of you in the comments, some interesting thoughts about, it's always at the end of the day, we can't get 100% of reality. We are always biased by our conscious, subjective experience. So it's only our brain that filters out the reality. So, how do we really know what is true or not? But I do believe that there are things in the world that are more true than others. So I do believe that there is some kind of reality that we can actually look at and observe. And, it's a funny thing. I've been thinking about, us studying the universe. And with all the laws of physics we have quantum mechanics and general relativity and a bunch of the simpler stuff as well. And we're studying it like this is super important. But imagine if we actually lived in a multiverse with infinite amount of universes. In that case, it's ridiculously arbitrary what values our universal constants have. What's the value of not pi, but like gravity or the strong nuclear force or anything like that. That is completely random. It has no significance in it. So, we're putting so much serious effort into it when the laws of physics and literally all of reality could be in infinitely many more different ways. But an argument against this would be that as long as we do live in this kind of universe, in this reality, then it is useful for us, and we should find out what the laws that this reality operates with are. This is just some of my thoughts of what I'd call ignorant pessimism, something that quite a lot annoys me, because it's just born of ignorance. I'm perfectly happy if people have pessimistic views about the future and they come and they say, I think that nuclear war will happen because this political tension and, this thing is going in that direction and, whatever, and we can have a discussion about it, that's fine. But not if someone is naturally a pessimistic person and that drives them to say that yes, human extinction is likely, because that is just foolish. That's what I think, at least. So these are just some of my thoughts. I would be really interested to hear if you have any thoughts about this, so please share them in the comments. And of course, thank you so much for watching, and take care.